Pick away from Broughton. Henry was being held on the play by Danico, and now a fight breaks out. Henry and Maley. Wow, Maley with that left hand is connected 3 or 4 times. Henry down on the ice, and in go the linesman.
He surprised Dale Henry. If you don't know your fighters that well, I don't know how many times Maley gets into a fight, but he surprised Dale Henry with a left hand, and then he got him off balance, kept pumping away. Henry now, of course, mad. He's trying to get at Maley. He surprised him. He got him off balance. If you're up against the boards in a fight, it's not so bad because that's one place you can get leverage. And Dale Henry was far enough away from it that when he went backwards, he reached for it, couldn't find it. And with that, Maley pumped him a couple more times. And if you can fight back into it, look at him go now. He wants to get even.
Henry being ushered off the ice. David Maley will be leaving from the furthest exit. Maley went after Henry, connected with 3 or 4 lefts real quick. Take another look.
Maley is 6'2", 200 pounds, out of the University of Wisconsin, from Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. There, Henry and he are going to go at it. They know it. They both know it. They're talking. Now they go. Maley there, 1, 2. Boom, 3. He gets them in, and now there's 4. Wow.
And another one.
Yeah. Now that's fighting.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Mark Lundholm Show. I'm Mark. I think that as we proceed here with a YouTube show that is free for people, A, you already got your money's worth. B, it's really fun to do. One of the things I'm blessed to do is I get to choose who I want to talk to today. I get to make a list of people who are potential guests on this show or topics that we're going to talk about. And we always talk about service here, service to others, service to self, so we can be available to others, people we love and care about or obligated to because we're employed by them. How do you serve a community that you live in without knowing who's there? So in the upswell of doing comedy for a living and traveling and thousands of miles and thousands of hotels later, there's a whole bunch of people I know. Today, we're going to talk to Dave Maley, friend of mine. One of the perks about being Mark Lundholm is that when I host a show like this, it's pretty much I get to talk to who I like, who I want, who I respect, who I admire. I don't think I've had a guest yet that I didn't want to talk to or learn from. So in that effort, let me ask you a question, because ultimately you're the one that decides if this is a good show or not for you. And if you like or comment or subscribe and share and all those things, bam, bam, boom, boom, things we do to say, hey, I approve, right? That social media I approve thing, which is really important to some people. Me, I want you to have a good time just while we're doing this. Just be in the present, be in the moment. And here's one of the things we can do is when I ask you a question, you think about this for a few seconds. When I say balance, when I say forceful, when I say power, when I say coast or glide, when I say impact, what do you think? Do you think car accident? Do you think sex? Do you think marriage, business? What do you think of when I said those words right there? Let's start with skating. That's where I want to go, skating. Skating requires agile and balance and smooth and knowing your territory and teamwork, right? If you're a skater in some form, you got to have a coach, you got a partner, whether we're talking about pairs in the Olympics, whether we're talking about a figure as an individual, you got a coach and support, a team, a sponsorship thing. How about hockey? Hockey. I never played hockey myself because I didn't grow up in a place where we were skating. I was a basketball player. I played football and a bunch of stuff. If we're passionate about sports, we have heroes, right? My guest today is a former NHL player. He played with 5 NHL teams, a good player. He turned out to be a really good TV and radio announcer, an analyst, a play-by-play guy. He was everything to hockey, and I think he would tell you that hockey meant a lot to him at some point too. He's also a father. He's a really good husband. He's a fantastic friend. I've known David a long time. A business owner too. So all those things we talked about, that balance, that choosing the right partner or coach or mentor, example, hero, we used that word earlier. Who are your heroes? Were they athletes? Were they business people? Were they teachers? Maybe your parents? What did they have in common? They probably told the truth. They probably were really good at what they did. And how do you pass that on?
I embraced the man who was openly gay. Where's my parade?
Welcome back to the Mark Lundholm Show. I'm graced with the presence of a very dear friend. I got to know this guy because I used to watch this guy perform. He is a professional hockey player, a professional hockey announcer post-career as a player, businessman, father, good husband. Used to be a neighbor of mine in San Jose. And I want to welcome my friend Dave Maley. How you doing?
Oh, so good. And so great to see your face. I miss you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss you too, David. I do. I don't mind saying for the people listening that we're friends and that we got a lot in common. Let's see. What we don't have in common is I'm no tough guy. I wasn't a brawler. I've never been in a hockey fight in my life. I can't skate for nothing. Tell the people listening who are semi-familiar with that sport and all that goes on. What are you doing? What are you doing since the hockey, professional hockey? You were a Devil, right?
Well, I'll
Devil.
back you up just a little bit because
please do that.
I'll tell you a quick story because you kind of opened up with a tough guy and all this and that. And the funny thing is that I grew up on a small farm, Wisconsin. I ended up moving to Minnesota when I was before eighth grade. Played high school hockey in Minnesota. Then I went on to college at Wisconsin. Well, guess what? None of that hockey from 10 years old to 19 did you drop your gloves, or did you learn how to drop your gloves? Right. So now when I was in college, I got into some fights. Imagine that after coming from a bar and got in some trouble when I was in college, which made the press. Which when I got into Montreal, my first year pro, we're in training camp and we're after the first period of the first game in training camp. And normally in training camp, you have one practice and you go right into playing, scrimmage games. Back in the 80s, in 1986, unbeknownst to me, training camp was just a brawl fest. I mean, there is not much hockey going on, right? But here I am, a college kid. I knew that there was hockey. I've watched hockey. But after the first period, a guy named Neil Armstrong, not the same guy that went to the moon, but he was one of the pro scouts there that watched me in college, came up to me in the locker room, which was really weird, and said, "Can you come outside? I need to talk to you." I walked outside the locker room with him, and he said, "Hey, the brass are waiting for you to drop your gloves. They want to see a fight." Honest to God.
No kidding.
Yeah, I went back in that locker room thinking, okay, I guess I got to drop my gloves. And that's what I did. First shift.
Something they had not seen you do in your college career. They drafted you.
Yep.
And then wanted you to add on. Let's see what layer of this you have.
Well, I think, the way that I played in college, I played a physical style. I was 6'2", 205 pounds, whatever. And but in college, Mark, you couldn't fight. I got in a couple of fights, with your gloves on, you hit a guy, you're kicked out right away. And we had cages back then. So, what are you going to do to a guy with your glove on? You hit him so. Yeah. And on the street, when you have a few beers in you, and maybe some, something else, whatever, you know, you feel a little bit more like 6'8", 250 versus, 6'2", right? So, and then
I used to be that guy once in a while. You
so
know.
I don't mean to go on about that, but it was really something that not only did I not really know how to do, or I didn't really train for, and the short story is after that season, I was fortunate because I had a couple of really tough guys on my team. Chris Nyland, legendary guy from Boston, who is an incredible fighter, but he also played on a checking line. He kind of took me under his wing. We had a couple other guys, Shane Corson, John Cord. We had a big, tough team, so I didn't have to fight that off in my first year. And after I got back from Minnesota, we had this kind of like a small boathouse, like underneath the garage. The guy that had the house before had a boat. We didn't have one. He had a little sailboat in there. And I put a heavy bag and a speed bag, and I put a rope around the heavy bag so I could hold it with one arm because to kind of simulate a hockey fight. I put rollerblades on, and part of my training, I just hit the bag with both hands as best I could. And yeah, that was my fighting training. And then just go back into the season and give it a try.
Well, I tease you a little bit because I know that you and I met. Let's see. I got so many directions I want to go with you, Dave, because the reason I'm calling this episode Professional Balance is it's real interesting to me. I mean, I do comedy for a living. I get to talk for a living. I don't have to hit anybody. There's no speed bag at my house. A heavy bag would be too much garbage in recycling. You know what I mean? It makes me laugh, though, that guy who's 6'8" when he drinks and Teflon and 10 feet tall, bulletproof, that guy, he comes from somewhere, right? I know you as a gentle man. I know you as a sensitive person who's got a lot of growth in him as a father, as a husband, as a citizen, as a friend. I know you as all those things. I didn't know you at all while I was watching you play for the San Jose Sharks is where you ended up. And I was a San Jose Sharks, still am, huge fan, right? My boy and I love hockey. I can't skate.
Yeah.
My boy skated for a few lessons and realized I don't like the ice. It's too hard, right? But that guy who balances the emotional of I'm a skater, I'm a scorer, I'm a protector, I'm a teammate, and I'm a brawler. They're asking you to be that guy. When did the I don't know, I'm not sure what I'm doing guy start with other things to fill that hole? This is a very personal question.
You know what? I don't know exactly what you mean by filling the hole. I think I just knew, when I was playing, that protector side of me that I guess, I don't know, it was something the way I was raised or whatever. I looked at it like, if you're gonna push around our guys, we're pushing back. And so I did have that streak in me. It's not, to say that I think towards the end of my career, I lost that, kind of that, you got to have that, be on that fine edge when you know that you're going to take something to the next level and ask, fight a guy. It was tougher towards the end of my career to kind of balance that. And, everybody that plays the game, when you grow up, you don't think to yourself. I mean, I've heard Bob Probert in interviews and a lot of other considered tough guys that, you want to play the game. You want to score the goals. You want to do the things that you did all the way growing up. But at that level, the game changed. And so, I mean, when I stopped playing, I think it was a tough period of my life because, like you mentioned early on, my first wife had left me for good reason. Won't get into all of that. My daughter was not yet 3, and I was doing a lot of things that I knew that I did not want to do anymore, that I didn't feel like I could live the life that I wanted to live by doing the things I was doing. So I got into recovery in 1996. And, I think to answer your question in a little bit elongated answer is that, I learned from other men in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous how to live my life, how to be a good man, how to be a good friend, a good father. And I still do today. I mean, I'll never have that totally figured out, but I am, so grateful that I walked into an AA meeting back in 1996 with the push of one of my older sisters, who always thought I had a problem. She just had, she was just the one that had the radar. She was closest to me. I had three older sisters, and and I was finally ready to listen to her. So, yeah, I owe a lot to the men in recovery in my life, including yourself, that have showed me, how to live their life in recovery.
And when you look in the mirror today, how many Daves do you see?
Just one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we're shooting for? I can be my authentic self. Listen, as many people from different backgrounds and different futures watch this particular presentation. I'm a sober guy. You're a sober guy. I don't mind. I'm a fan of all the steps. I'm a fan of many paths. I want to be able to show up as Mark Lundholm. Whatever version of that you see, you think, you find, you want, isn't as important to me as it used to be. When you were playing,
yeah,
did you have that luxury of being the authentic Dave Maley?
No, not really. And I'll answer one question. My dad used to say, when I was a kid, when I first started playing, and I love music as a kid, I think part of it was my three older sisters and all the music they listened to in the 60s and 70s. And skating was a lot different from other sports I had played. Baseball was standing there, and football was, at that time, I only played flag football. Basketball, just not as quick and fast paced. And hockey, there was this fluid kind of motion and tempo. And from a young age, I used to sing songs and hum songs in my head when I played. And, I talked to my dad about that. And early on, he'd ask me, it's like, it seemed like you were like out in your own world, right? And I told him that. And so that was kind of his mantra as I went through. When things were going bad, he'd say to me one sentence. He'd say, "Are you still hearing the music?" And I could normally answer him. I could normally answer him and say yes until I got to pro, because let me just give you an example. The season starts, I look at the schedule, and we're in Philly on a Saturday, and then they're at home on a Sunday, so Philly back to back. Then we go on the island on Tuesday, and then so I'm looking at these games going, okay, I might have to fight, Dave Brown, Rick Tocchet in Philly, and New York, I might have to fight this guy, and I didn't have the ability, at least at that time, to, let go of those, fears or the thoughts of, tomorrow, right? I couldn't live in the moment. So to answer your question, I mean, really, in pro, it was tough for me to separate and find my authentic self, because to me, my authentic self as a player was to play physical and to score goals and set guys up. And I did that all along. But in pro, you kind of figure out that, hey, they want me to do this. I know I can do it. I think at one point it probably would have been best if I either got my ass kicked, well, he can't fight, or, stand up for myself and say, I'm not playing this, kind of role anymore. But I never did that.
And sometimes there's a not knowing that all of us possess. I just don't know. I don't know is a really profoundly honest answer for me a lot of the day. I don't know. I'd like to know. I wish I did. I'd love to be impressive. I maybe I feel like I should know by now. I'm 61 years old. I don't know yet, really.
Yeah.
But I don't know is a very honest answer as a man. That manhood, brotherhood, fatherhood, the hood you want to live in now. I don't have a problem as much saying I don't know. The balance that occurred to me while you were talking just now, as a comedian, I have a lens of, I find the funny. It's safe for me. It's Listen, my kid goes to private school. My ex-wife loves her ex-husband. We're not destitute, but I have a gift. You have a gift. That balance. It occurred to me, hockey is the only sport, the only one where your footing isn't firm. Basketball, you got sneakers that squeak because they're sticky. You got cleats. In football, they're going to pound you into the ground. Football in hockey is like hunting. One team wants to put you on your ass and put your head on their shelf, right? So, but in hockey, it's just the opposite. You're on the slippiest shit possible. You got the worst fucking footwear to have on. Really, you know what I mean? While you're trying to do your job, score the goal, protect your team, do the job. Somebody's trying to knock you down, and you got to run backwards, man.
Skate backwards. Yeah.
How? How is that fair at all? Hockey, by its very nature, is. I have to keep my balance, and the other guy's job is to make sure I'm not in balance, right? Didn't you pick the perfect occupation for Dave Maley and maybe the drunken Dave?
Yeah, I mean, that's talk about, like when I joined the league in '86, at least from what all I saw, it was strictly a beer drinking, that kind of a league. You weren't so concerned about everything you put in your body. Guys could play with, we had guys that had hangers, they weren't in the best shape, but they could score goals. We'd have practice. We go to the Rusty Scupper in Jersey and, eat all this fried food, right? Potato skins loaded and chicken wings and,
Yeah.
But today's game is, geez, it's like night and day, Mark.
Yeah.
It really is. So I would have not last in this league if I would have the same David, Maley played now. You have to be, it's a year round gig and they're in such great shape today. And even like this year I coached, I was assistant coach for a high school team, Holy Family. A buddy of mine is the head coach. And man, you should see these kids, Mark. I mean, they're just phenomenal athletes. They're phenomenal skaters. The pace of play, I think the pace of play at the high school level in Minnesota is probably pretty close to the pace of play in the NHL when I played, right? You might get a lot of guys like old guys go, that's BS, our 1972 team could beat, the Pittsburgh Penguins up today. And I'm like, full of shit. You'd be like pylons out there. So I don't know. I kind of babbled a little bit on that one, but I think for me, I think sometimes about the game. I really would have loved to play the game now because it's all about skating, and I think that was an asset that I did have, and not have to worry so much about the fighting. I mean, you could go. I could watch 10 games in the league this year in the NHL and not see one fight. That's crazy.
Yeah, and listen, it's a toning down of some of the severe behavior. PC language. If you're a comedian, no fights, right outward. It's not the goal as a hockey player. There's a toning down and a nicer and a kinder. In some of us are 12-step fans. In the '80s, it used to be. Hey, sit down and shut your mouth, and you ain't talking, and sit in the front, and you know what I mean? Take the cotton out of your ear, stick it in your ass, whatever they told you, right?
Yeah.
Now it's we love you till you can love yourself, and we're here for you, brother, and there's a kinder, gentler thing. The balance that it takes as a professional hockey player, I mean, you're a professional skater, first and foremost, right?
Yeah.
That's fair to say?
Yeah.
You get paid to skate professionally. With skating, it's not easy for everybody. You grew up in an area where everybody skates or they hunt, right? Or both. But if you wanted to balance some of the lifestyle, the pressure, the stress, I'm on display for people. They paid to watch this number on this jersey do that thing, and you want to do a good job. When you come off the ice, the stage for you wasn't early on. To be fair, wasn't part of the balance drinking? Didn't it help at first? Wasn't it comforting?
I don't know. I mean, for me, drinking was, early on in high school. I mean, from 14, 15. I mean,
Okay.
I ran with a bunch of guys, and I guess in a community where pretty affluent community, and there happened to be a lot of parents here and there that were, out of town, and the guy that that was 15 that looked like he was 18 that had a fake ID got a keg, and so it really was kind of and then all our parents drank. They had parties and this and that, and I'm not condoning the parents drinking, but that was just how my life
Yeah.
was. Where for me, it wasn't like my drinking and using drugs started off. I mean, it did start off early, but in a way, I think sports saved me, right? Because it didn't escalate until it towards the end of my professional career. As far as the level of drinking or using drugs, so I guess I was able to manage it to a point. But when I look back and actually, I'm not trying to justify my actions. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't manageable. I mean, I made it to
Yeah.
buses. I made it to most buses. I made most curfews. I could tell you a lot of different stories about missing curfews, or trying to taking a bus from New York City because we were down at Hard Rock Cafe and two guys left, and I was talking to a gal. We took a ride on in Central Park on horseback, and then I said, "Hey, can you give me a ride back to Jersey?" And she's like, "I don't got a car," so I had to take the bus. Crazy, missed curfew. But I know I'm kind of going on, I was
That's
able
okay.
to. I think a lot of the times, the first time or second time I got traded, both the first and second time I got traded were around um, alcohol related events that either were, I missed a curfew and then my play wasn't very good or whatever it was, enough to where the GM wanted to trade me. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. And for you, you're one of the lucky ones, right? The rare air, we call it, where passion becomes a profession. You're a music lover. You're not a professional musician. You're a talented athlete, and that's what you get paid to do. At some point, how do you balance the loss of that you became a commentator? I know you're really good. I used to listen to you,
well,
right?
thank you.
And well, you know what you're talking about because you did what you were doing enough to know what you're talking about. Can't you do that also with parenting, with raising a couple of sons now? I know that you have a daughter. I know you got a couple of boys.
Yeah.
But how do you balance I'm a dad and I'm a masculine redwood tree, tall, straight, honest, planted deep in the earth and firm. How do you balance that with all the women in your life? Because you got a mom, you got a sister, you got a daughter, you got a wife. How do you balance the management it takes to say, I'm Dave Maley, still the teacher, still the provider. I'm the Cro-Magnon silverback gorilla type A personality, right? It doesn't always translate into the female sector. How do you manage that?
Well, well, first of all, is having moved from California to Minnesota, I only have one female, my wife, and then I got two dogs. One of them's a female too. Um, so, I
I'm glad you
learned
put them in that order, Dave. That was important.
that, yeah, it was very important. Um, I think I was real fortunate because my mom is my hero, and she is just an incredible human being, and I learned from her the grace, her hard work, and dedication to family. Just phenomenal. I could have a separate talk with you just about my mom, but so I saw not only that, but how my dad treated my mom, and how much love that he had for my mom. They were high school sweethearts, and before he passed, had I think close to almost 60 years of marriage, right? So, I think I had a lot of, at least from my father, I'll tell you, we used to go to Big Boys. I don't know if you remember that restaurant, Big Boys. That was like our
I
family.
do. Bob's.
Yeah, Bob's Big Boy. And dad was he was the kind of dad where if I didn't open the door for my mom and my sisters, I quick smack upside the head, right? And he taught me, here and there how to, treat a woman. And of course, you might get smacked in the head if you open the door for a woman today. But, and I don't mean that to joke around one way or the other. But, I just feel like trying to manage relationships with anyone that you're living under the same roof with isn't easy. And, it's I'm a constant, work in progress. I found when we had this, shelter in place and they got the boys, 2 teenage boys, they're at home, their e-learning wasn't going to start. I mean, I was in a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety about how things were going to go. And what I realized is I needed to start reaching out to guys in the program and get on the phone more and tell people the truth. Get into a lot more prayer and meditation, which I have, for the last couple of weeks. Because I just know that if I'm not doing those little things, especially to start my day, reaching out to another alcoholic addict or buddy, trying to pray or meditate, my days go a lot better when I do. So,
I asked for help. I don't know. Will you help? I find that it's a lot more comforting than trying to guess incorrectly one more time. Maybe I'm older. I don't know, but there's a part of me that says, well, you're just tired of bucking the system. You're tired of trying to be the innovator. You're trying to, tired of trying to be right.
Yeah.
Do you have a nice sober circle up there for yourself?
Yeah, as God would have it, I ended up jumping right into AA here only because I had to attend a funeral. A buddy of mine that I didn't even know was really struggling with alcohol and drugs. And then another guy that lived down the street from me, I couldn't make his funeral. I hate to start off with the depressing side of it, but then another really good friend of mine I played hockey with, I brought him to detox a couple times, been up to Hazelton, and then, as luck would have it, there's a Hazelton facility literally 2 miles from my house that I went to on a Monday noon meeting where there was 6 people in it. First meeting closest to my house that I'd gone to since I'd moved here. It was like a month after I moved here. And then, it was a decent meeting. It was a step meeting. I don't know what step they're on, but at the end of it, the guy says, "Hey, my time's up. My 6 months is up. Does anybody want to," they call it, lead the meeting. And you could hear crickets, right?
Yeah.
And then that voice in my head said, raise your hand. And so, I had a commitment right away for 6 months, which was good. I got to meet some, other people. And then the longer I stayed here, Mark, I'm shocked. Well, I guess I'm not shocked. I guess I'm pleasantly surprised. There are a lot of guys that I ran with. In fact, I'll tell you this one off story if I can. First,
sure.
Monday night, a nighttime meeting, also a step meeting. I'm sitting there. There's like 30 people in a round circle of nice, cozy chairs in this beautiful little church that overlooks the lake that I live next to, Lake Minnetonka. And I'm looking at this guy going, I know this guy. I know this guy, but I can't place his name. Yeah. So after the meeting, I go up to him and I get closer, and I don't know if he's just not wearing glasses or whatever. He goes, man, I thought that was you, right? So it's this guy I ran with back in my college kind of pro years. When I was playing in the NHL, I had a small cabin on this lake. He goes to me, this is what he says. He goes, "You remember that night where you left me on an island?" I kind of was like, "Are you sure that was me?" Well, we all got in a boat and we were bar hopping bar to bar in a boat. Not very smart. You're not supposed to drink and drive even in a boat, but of course I did. And then we had some bright idea of like 3 a.m. to sleep on this island. And we got up and I gathered the guys I could gather and we left him out there. So he spent half the day trying to flag people down.
And that's how he knows males.
Yeah.
Have you ever come across? I don't know if you're a blackout drunk, and you and I aren't shy about. Hey, listen, I've made a lot of mistakes chemically. I was into more substance and abuse than I could manage at some point, and I had to quit. There's no heroics there, but there's a little bit of self-aware that says, I need to take better care of myself. You know, I need to be. I want to keep my wife. I want to keep my life. I want to raise my sons. I've seen you since way back when we, you got sober and I met you, and I admire what you do. I've always admired the levels you go to. You've been a business owner, continue to do that kind of stuff. I want to get to that in a second. But you ever run into somebody that you know, but you don't know now, and you think, first thought wrong, oh, I wonder if they have a sister. I wonder if I need to make an apology. I wonder if I owe them money. I wonder if they still have that thing they borrowed from me. You ever have that what the F moment?
Of course. Oh,
and
without a doubt.
Besides the island guy, have
Yes.
you ever found it like in church or at the grocery store and how many of those do you have?
Not so many here, just because I just moved back in 19, 20 or months ago. September it'll be 2 years, and I don't get out all that much. You know what I mean? So I really haven't.
Yeah.
But I've had those. Years and years ago, I had a couple of those where it was a female that had come up. And so my first thought, was a flash of a lot of different things, right? Hey, I know you,
yes.
Yeah. But, most of them were pretty sublime and, the racing thoughts were for nothing, you know what I mean? But, that's always a possibility, right?
I want to tell you from the San Jose Bay Area, NorCal, the guys, me, the fellowship, we miss you. I miss playing golf. I miss going to some games. I miss doing the meeting after the meeting and the phone calls and the camaraderie and all that support that is. But I know what kind of guy you are, and I know that Minnesota benefited from you moving. What are you doing? What are you doing now?
Well, I started a side company when I was still involved at the Silver Creek Sportsplex. I ended up selling out of my interests at the Sportsplex, but I started a side company with a guy. His name's Robert Herbst. I actually coached him when he was a teenager. He's in his early 30s now. He has 4 daughters that are like age 13 and under. He came up with a real crude idea of a target, actually for lacrosse inside the Sportsplex. We used to do lacrosse lessons for beginners, and nobody wanted to put the goalie gear on. So he actually made it was out of wood, a piece of plywood, and he used our name tags and countersunk the magnet end side of the name tag. One thing led to another. I saw it in the locker room. Took it out, shot at it myself with hockey pucks. Then I asked who made it because I didn't know who made the thing. And then one thing led to another, and I asked him if he would, like to go in the business together, and I'd put the money in. And boy, it's been a long road, but it's been kind of a side gig that took off in a way. And it's called Top Shelf Targets. They're 6-inch and 8-inch plastic targets that have embedded magnets, so you can stick them right to a metal goal, either a lacrosse goal or a hockey goal, and shoot them down with a puck or a ball. And so I'm the managing member of the LLC. It's great because I can make a cup of coffee. I walk out my garage and I'm at work, and there's no employees, which is nice. And And
Yeah.
we're in a couple of big box stores. We're on Amazon.com and Amazon.ca, and I do all the shipping. And it's been a lot of fun, and it kind of keeps me connected too back to because both my partners are in San Jose, and so it's nice to hear how things are going with their families and everything else.
Good. I want to ask you, because this is basically about balance. Where do you find the balance these days? Father, business owner, entrepreneur, right? It's a startup. There's nobody that led that kind of thing. You guys invented this. Father, neighbor. Where do you find the balance? What helps you with that?
I don't know. I think trying to keep a routine. It's been a little hard to keep a routine. Um, to because I'll get to a point, and this is a big I don't know what you'd call it, but I'll get on these runs watching series on Netflix, and I'll get into to 3 or 4 in the morning, and then try to get up at 7 or 8, and then scratch my head like, why do I want to nap right now at noon? So for me, sometimes the balance is just trying to get to bed at a decent time and plan out my day. Try to not, try to go to a meeting, not let 3 days go by without going to a meeting, and don't beat myself up if I miss it, that kind of thing. But really, to be here for the family, I love cooking. I feel like I have a lot more time here in Minnesota. I don't know why that is, but so I've been cooking a lot more, and I like how I feel when I cook. And the boys, either they're lying to me or I don't know what, but they seem to like my cooking. So
Yeah,
um,
I don't think you raised a couple of liars as a man. I know. Do you still skate?
well, like I said, last year I skated. I got on with a group of guys by accident. I went to my old outdoor rink in Edina. I live like a few towns over from the town I played high school hockey in, and there's this outdoor rink there, Creek Valley. I mean, Edina was notoriously incredibly good at keeping the outdoor rinks like phenomenal. Great warming houses, and so I was supposed to meet a guy in the morning, go to a meeting early, and he bailed on me. And so I'm going, I'm going to go to Creek Valley. So I grabbed my skates, my stick, for a puck, went out there. The warming house wasn't open. It was like 8:30 in the morning. So I just put my skates on and went out there. Right. So all of a sudden I see these guys showing up. They're like 30-year-old, late 20s, 40s. And they're out there skating around. And some of them have light color, dark color. And I just kept skating around. I didn't recognize any of them. And they threw their sticks in a pile, and I threw my stick in. I'm figuring I'm going to play. So I ended up playing with these guys. They're all good. They could skate, and I was having a hard time keeping up with them. And then one of the guys, asked me during it, first 10 minutes, he goes, "Hey, what's your name?" I told him my name. He goes, "Come on." I said, "Yeah." And then he tells another guy, and then the joke around it was, I ended up talking to this guy afterwards, and he said, we were all in the warming house, and we were trying to take who's going to draw the short straw to tell the old guy that's out there to get the fuck off the ice, meaning me.
No kidding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And because I had jeans on, they have shin pads and elbow pads. I didn't have any of that. I just had mittens, the way we used to play. And so it was kind of funny. And I played that every Saturday, Sunday last year, 2 years ago. But this last winter, I coached a team, and we were on the ice Monday through Friday. And so I just didn't feel like, and I skated pretty hard, and I don't like to coach without showing guys. So, I'd show them how to use the body, or, so I kind of got a workout in a way. So it's a long way to answer your question. The last thing I'll tell you is I could, right out the back, my backyard, it goes into a park, and there's an outdoor rink right here. And I part-time,
Wow.
I worked a warming house part-time there. So, it's been really fun because I've gotten to know some of the parents and their kids that live around here that skate. And so I've gotten to go
Yeah.
out there and mess around with them. And And the other part of that balance too, at least for being here, is my wife's been awesome. We've had we moved in September. We had an ugly Christmas sweater party and invited everybody around. So we got to meet a lot of people. There's a lot of kids, a lot, different age ranges. And we had a big Halloween party this last Halloween because that's probably our family's favorite event is Halloween. So yeah, you got to get out in for us, I think as a family, the balance is spending time alone, but also together, and then
Yep.
getting to know the neighbors. And last thing I'll say is last winter, Ryan wanted to get these new speakers for his sound system, and I told him he's going to have to, put some money up for it. And so my wife on Nextdoor, that app Nextdoor, said my son wants to, raise money for his speakers. He'll snowplow your driveway for $30 for a small, $40 for medium, $50 for large. He started getting inundated with people that said, "Hey, come on over," right? Well, guess who his number one
Yeah.
employee was? Me.
He hired his old man?
Well, yeah, I had to go with him. He's only 14 and he'd never really, done the snowblower and all that. But, we got to know people that way too. And I got to know my son because it took, each job took 2.5, 3 hours. So even though we may not say much, but I know what this is like probably with Grayson is, you could be in an hour car ride and not say much, but it's still time with him,
I can't even put a price on what that means to be present in a time where I'm not going to get that back. There's going to be a day where he doesn't have time to ride in the Jeep with his dad. He's got his own gig and stuff. Is your son a pretty good boss?
He's actually a great boss. I think he learned quickly after I let him do all the negotiating because I said, the first job, the gal says, "I got a small driveway," so I went on Google App. It's like half mile long. I mean, and so I let Ryan, I said, "Ryan, you're negotiating." He goes, No, come on, you come with me. I go, "No, man, it's your gig." I said, "Listen, I don't think it's $30, but I'm not going to tell you what you think." And he's, so he ended up getting it for 40.
Yeah.
And then she gave him like 10 extra bucks for a tip. So, it worked out the way it was supposed to work out.
And we step back, they step up as dads. I know that one for sure. I step back, he gets to step up. If I step forward, I'm stepping on sometimes. And that just doesn't feel good. I got to tell you a couple of things. It's a question I always ask every guest. 5 years from now, in a perfect world, where are you and what are you doing?
I'm right here doing another interview with you 5 years later with an update.
All right, listen.
I don't know.
I love that answer. Anything else with the family, work, business? It's 5 years in the future. I know it's a one day at a time lifestyle, but we're allowed to want and dream and look forward. There's hope here. What else is going on for you at that point? You hope.
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I just recently started talking about when the boys, 5 years from now, they'll be at college, God willing. And, I think we'd like to probably go look at a place in Florida. And we both kind of decided Arizona would be a little too hot. So, I think it'd be nice to maybe have a small little place to be able to go down and be out of the winters here in Minnesota. But who knows? A lot is going to have to happen in the next 5 years for that to happen, seeing as though my kids' college and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But, I think you got to put those dreams out there because I'm sure, as you know, if you don't talk about it, it's never going to happen.
No, and I know that when we take care of ourselves, we're available to those ideas. There's a phrase I'll use when I'm working sometimes with a new group of people. They're new to sobriety. They're new to the next level of who they are. You stop drinking so much. You stop thinking so much. You start living a little bit. And if I was going to ask you something, I heard you loud and clear listening to you in this. Can you still hear the music?
Yeah, I can, especially when I'm out on the outdoor rink. But I think now that you mention it, and I say it gave me chill bumps, and I am surprised I didn't choke up when I was telling you the story, because my dad passed away a couple years ago. And so when I brought that story before, I've it's brought tears to my eyes, and there's a lot of emotion around telling that story, and now that, you've asked me that back, I guess I got to look at it across the board, right? Because he used to ask that question as it related to hockey. And I really think I need to start asking that question as it relates to, everything else, right?
You sure earned it. I mean, there's diverse Dave Maley. I heard a whole bunch of passion in a few different directions, and I think that's one of the things that they bang into us as we're newcomers, the old crusty AA timers that say, tell me what your dreams are 10 years from now. You're going to laugh at how little you asked for. That kind of, kind of stuff. It's very cliche, but there's some truth to cliches. That's why they stick around. And the options we get getting out of our own way are exactly what we kind of talked about today. I love the fact that you made time for us today. I miss you personally as a friend. Last thing I want to do, we do this for everybody too, every guest. Dave Maley has many things as you're into. You have a shameless plug minute. What do you got? Give us what you want them to know, look for, or buy from Dave Maley.
What do you mean by shameless? I mean,
I love the fact that that's what you heard. That's the word out of all that you heard. It literally means shameless. There's no embarrassment about, hey, everybody wants to survive, but the way we do that is we support a passionate life with a pretty good product or a performance. In my case, what do you want them to know?
Oh, you know what? I think in this day, what we're going through now is just loving kindness. You know what I mean? To have that in the forefront. That's what I'm trying to do lately, is just meditate around having love and kindness for everybody on this planet. And, that's it. Because I think if anything, this has shown a lot of people that, by having to be closed in, we've had to really realize how much that we don't really think and consider everybody else that are around us in the world today. So I guess that's my only message, is just keep being loving and kind to yourself and the people around you and the whole world.
It's one of the reasons I knew that choosing you was the right person for this segment. That message there was very unselfish, humble, very loving and balanced, which is what we were looking for today. Dave, I love you. Thanks for doing this for us today.
I love you, man. I miss you, and I look forward to seeing you.
You will. Take care, my friend.
All right, we'll see you.
All right. I find as a father, whether you like it or not, at least maybe before your kid gets to know you real well, there's the joke in the show, you are somebody's hero. What I try to do, as visible as I become, I try to be the guy that I would tell you I am. A lot of us don't live up to even our own expectations. When I'm talking to a guy like David just now, when we were talking about family, when we were talking about being accountable or available or responsible in a family dynamic. That's just like a hockey team. I mean, you got different positions you play. You got different responsibilities you're going to be available for because of your position, right? If you're a kid, your position is to make a mistake and hope it doesn't cost you very much. That's what kids do. You can't learn your first time out very often. When Dave mentioned that he would really, really, really like to do some certain things better than other things, right? Not too many people get to the rare air that a professional is. If you have a passion and you do it for a living and become a professional, there's a paycheck attached to that. We talk about this ad nauseum, really. If you love what you do, it isn't work anymore. It's a thriving situation. It's an excellence position. It's really something that you were put in this universe to do. In a form of service, service to the universe, what gifts were you given? One of the gifts that I have, that Dave has, is people believe us. When Dave came to me and said, hey, I want to do this, this, or this, I said, yeah, you got my help. When he asked me, I said yes. When he's asked me, I said yes. When I've asked him, he says yes. We're friends. There's no secret to what friends do because they trust each other, right? That's not an overnight thing. Let me talk about professional sports here for a second. When you play sports as a kid, volleyball, softball, football, pick a sport as a kid. Soccer, lots of team sports as a kid. You're either good or you're not good, but you play. Now, the best of the young kids, they become the kids who get to go on to the next level. You go to high school, and then you become the best at that. And those kids go to college and play that same thing. You get to be the best as a youth, the best as an adolescent, the best in high school, the best in college, the best in training camps, semi-pro, minor leagues, and then you get to go to the pros. I'm a professional comedian. There's a rank there that comes from hard work and a lot of time and a lot of maybe universal nudge, luck. Professional sports, rare air. Professional sports, the best of those people, Hall of Famers, all pros. We get to talk to people who are excellent at what they do on this show. Excellent. And there's people watching right now who are excellent at what they do. How'd you get to be that person? How'd you get to that level? Did you accidentally fall up a flight of stairs to get to the top office? Is that how you did it? I don't think so. You know what's really fun is to do something you love. I love being a dad. It's the highlight of my week. I've done TV and Showtime and a bunch of stuff that's recorded and you can find all over the place. But that's because that's my job, is to do that, to be public and to be funny in public. But when I raise my kid to be a good person, when I work with my ex-wife, who is fantastic. Did I say ex-wife? Ex-wives. When I work with them to raise the kids we made, that is fun stuff because it's a passion also. Now, let me ask you a question. Just a question as a joke I just thought of. Aren't all parents professionals at some point? We talked about professional hockey. We talked about professional comedy. We talked about professional teaching, entertainment, healing. We talked about being a business person, right? If you're a professional, doesn't that mean you get paid to do what you're good at? Or does it mean you're getting paid to do what you have to do? I don't get a penny for being a dad, but I wouldn't take a penny if you made me an offer. I love the work, right? Dave was talking about his sons, right? And how his sons are different than he is. His sons are different. That element of different, that doesn't have to be a threat because it's an unknown. Man, how many things do you do differently than your parents? How many levels or layers of you are different than the people who actually made you? If you know who they are, we deal with a lot of different types of people on this show. There's a lot of people watching this particular episode who maybe have parents they don't talk to anymore, aren't around anymore, don't care about anymore as far as being close or intimate or great. There's a lot of broken families that pick up this stuff and watch it and know exactly firsthand what I'm talking about. What if you're adopted? You know that professional balance. Professionals are very high level of doing something. Well, what happens if you don't feel that way all the time? You know, we talked about being insecure, Dave and I, about being insecure as dads or husbands or men. How many times has insecurity cost you your job? I actually got to watch Dave play and watch him do his booth job, his TV radio gig thing. Pretty cool to watch it at that level, you know. I'm a big Sharks fan, hockey Sharks. San Jose, Grayson and I, my son, we are huge fans of that team. There's a point where, as a fan, you get to appreciate what someone else does well. I like watching other comedians work. I like watching other parents thrive in an environment where I go, that was a good choice. That was a good move. It's kind of like watching, I don't know, a painter make the painting. I can appreciate it when it's done, and I can tell you what I see because I have an artistic lens. But watching it being done, that's a whole different thing. Can you be present today? Can you be present today, have the professional balance at your job to remember that, you know what I'm going to do today? And Dave alluded to this when he was talking about the different types of work. He's in a brand new enterprise right now. He explained that to us too. Brand new. He's an entrepreneur, an innovator, right? He's taken something that was a good idea and made it better. There's a shortcut here for you. Do the job like you're trying to get the job. Do you remember how hard you worked when you were new at the job you wanted to have or keep? Did you have a probation period? In the retail clerks union I was in, they have an apprenticeship program. I know plumbers and pipe fitters and electricians have this too. You're an apprentice for a while. And there's a probationary period where they check you out. Can you do the job? You know, after a while, you prove yourself. You get to keep that job because you did the job and you did the work that it took, right? So funny is a relative term, right? But hard work ethic, that's not relative. That's not somebody's perception. There's hard work and there's not. That's it. Do the job like you're trying to get the job. You know, this particular career path for me has cost me a ton of things. Sacrifice, a lot of personal, this for that. Can't you say the same thing? Your job, what's the sacrifice that it takes to do that job? Or the passion you have if you're not working right now, or have a path that you are working toward that great job that you can see just around the corner. I know you want to get there. Are you willing to sacrifice what it takes to be there? And once you're there, can you do the job like you're trying to get the job? You know, fired up. You ever have somebody younger than you remind you of the important things that you forgot because you're a little farther along the path? I had a kid remind me, he probably 18, 19 years old. I had a kid remind me the other day about how fortunate I am. I was in a treatment center working with a group of inpatients. And I had about 6 hours with those people. And at the end of the day, this kid, 18, 19 years old, he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Well, sure. Yeah, you look very serious, you know. Can I ask you a question?" Looking at me. I said, yeah, of course. And I'm thinking, first thought wrong, second thought wrong, third thought, I don't want to lie to this kid. It's probably serious. He's going to ask me about some kind of serious trauma situation. We've been doing clinical process group for 6 hours. I said, yeah, please, go ahead. He goes, "Do you have a favorite joke?" And I thought, this is what this guy wants to know. He's 18 or 19 years old. He just wants to know what my favorite joke is, right? After 6 hours of talking about inpatient, drug abuse, criminality, loss, grief, trauma, maybe. I don't know that this kid had particulars in any of those areas, but it was 6 hours of pretty heavy-duty stuff with some, comic kind of distraction and levity and love and light, which is ha-ha and humor. And humor, hey, listen, if we can talk about it, it's maybe because we laughed about it, right? He wanted to know if I had a favorite joke, and I said, I got a lot of them. I got a lot of them. And what he said next was this. He goes, it must be nice to have a lot of something. And I thought, wow, that kid just told me everything right there. I went from vacillating about what serious question he was going to ask me, and then the frivolity of what's your favorite joke, which he said. And when he said, it must be nice to have a lot of something, it hit me really hard. It hit me hard just now, too, where it was a huge statement. Must be nice to have a lot of something. So I said, let me give you one of them. I said, I got a favorite knock-knock joke, right? And I was losing my leverage there as the facilitator of the group and the man. At least I felt like that because it affected me. And without going into some kind of deep, dark psychological stuff here, every once in a while I get challenged and I go right to, I'm going to put the pressure back on you. That professional balance, right? He knocked me on my heels a little bit. So I came forward at him, and it was gentle. Here's how I did it. I said, yeah, let me tell you my favorite knock-knock joke. You ready? My favorite knock-knock joke. You ready? He goes, yeah. I go, okay, you start. And he goes, knock-knock. And I go, who's there? He goes, and I'm back in charge. He was on his heels. He didn't know what he was going to say. Now, I wasn't picking on him, but there was a balance that I needed to restore there so I could think about what I was doing to say to him, tell me about the stuff you lost to get to this place. I went right there. So I did it with a joke. That knock-knock joke, I didn't write that, but it is my favorite knock-knock joke. I like to do jokes that I wrote, right? I'm all original on this show. But pretty much, I've known that joke a long time, and it always stops somebody's clock. Try it at home. Try it this week at work. Hey, I got a favorite knock-knock joke. Yeah, what is it? Oh, it's my favorite one. You start. Knock-knock. Who's there? Immature? Yeah, at least. It's immature. It's attention-seeking. But, hey, my core, that's who I am. Now, as childish as that can be, isn't that part of the balance? A balanced person has a way they can let out some of the angst. We can do that. Hockey players, they can throw down the gloves. As soon as, I don't know if you watch hockey or not, but there's a part where there's a fight coming. It's hockey players' language, right? When they look a certain way, when they have they speak to each other, right? There's an eloquence there. If you play the sport, you speak the language. If you speak the language, you know the sport. Hockey players, when they're ready to fight, boom, the gloves come off. They just do this. The gloves slide off, and they know it's time, right? And they fight. And the refs let them fight. And when the refs let them fight, they let them fight until somebody has an advantage. When somebody falls or somebody's cut and blacked out, whatever it is, when there's an advantage, they step in. But there's an unwritten rule that says the balance is we got to let off some steam. We're going to have to get rid of some of this pent-up stress, anger, relief, irritation, whatever the level of is. How do you do that at your job? I'm pretty sure I'm not talking to a lot of professional hockey players out there or professional comedians or entertainers or there's no single majority out there of work and what we do for a living. I hope it's still passionate for you, but how do you let off steam? How do you exercise some kind of stress at your job? Do they have a big ball you can bounce on? Do they have a yoga room for you? Do they have some of the high-tech Silicon Valley companies have huge programs for stress relief and a desk you can stand at all day and things like that. You personally, just think about this for a second. I'm talking just to you. How do you manage stress, relieve some kind of pressure or responsibility or high bar or strenuous kind of task-oriented? How do you balance that? I get to be funny. I know humor helps a lot when it comes to the balance of work and parenting and judgmental and life and social, right? That's not an easy thing to do, is balance. When was the last time you were on a skateboard? I rode one about 5 years ago. It was in the garage. I was cleaning out the garage, and Grayson had a skateboard there. And to be honest, I was on that skateboard about 3 feet. And then I was not on the skateboard. I was on my rear end and one of my elbows. And I thought about that for 3 weeks afterwards. I used to ride a skateboard a lot as a kid, only they were different. Okay, just a little age check here. We used to take wheels off of roller skates and put them underneath a board and screw them in through the top of the board. It was a flat board. It was a skate and a board, right? Hence the name. Yeah, we made a board into a skateboard, right? And then we would walk our pet brontosaurus down to the... I'm kidding. But there were old days where balance was about being a kid and not falling. There was an adolescence where balance was about emotional. I'm not going to get, too much grief and too much in love and this hard to manage all those feelings which are new. It's like a new skateboard, new bike, new something where I got to watch my levels, right? In business, in work, in passion for opportunity and employment. Dave was a real good example today. He's had many jobs. He's lived in many places. He's been a member of lots of teams. I think what I know today, and he's still my friend, I love the guy. What I know today is that Dave's a pretty balanced man. I would love that for some of us, right? God bless the people at Food Villa who hired me at 18 years old so I could work my way through school. I was a business major at San Jose State with a minor in controlled substances at the time. So I posed as a grocery clerk during the days to work at this place. Nice, big, family-owned market. Huge, big as a Safeway store. Vaughn's, Ralph's, Giant Eagle, wherever you're from. But grocery store work was easy for me. And I used to shoot my mouth off in the check stand, especially when I saw people like this. Somebody would buy an Inquirer magazine. We used to have this magazine called The Inquirer. It was a rag. It was a newspaper kind of trade thing. The Inquirer, there was a whole bunch of them. The Daily News, the Globe. There were these papers where you could print anything you wanted and you weren't held accountable for it. It was really crazy. But it was gossip. When somebody would put that magazine down on my counter with their other groceries, I would charge them for the magazine, the Inquirer magazine, 35 cents, 50 cents, 40, whatever it was back then. And then I'd ring up an extra $1. It was an idiot tax. That's what I called it. It's an idiot tax. Just charge them an extra $1. Sometimes they would notice. Most times they wouldn't notice the extra $1 because they're idiots. But if they said to me, hey, you charge me $1, I see this as 35 cents. They're looking at that. I said, yeah, that's an idiot tax. If you buy an Inquirer, you're an idiot. You pay an extra $1. Their reaction after that was priceless. Either they want to call the manager and they'd say, I want to talk to your manager. And I'd say, ooh, he doesn't like me to wake him up till after dinner. Okay. Or I'd say, no, you don't get to do that. That's an extra $1. I always had some kind of answer. Can you imagine that clerk waiting on you in the store now? But this was back in 1978, 79, that era, right? I'm a kid, but I'm a mouthy kid, and I can't stop talking like that. We used to have this thing at the grocery stores in the 70s where you could cash a payroll check on Fridays. Food Villa had a card, check cashing card. You were a member, a well-known, trusted member. You had a number at the top of your check cashing card. You cash a check for groceries, get a little money extra, and cash a whole payroll check on Friday. We had money in the till, crazy. Just boom, here's your cash, $300, $400, $500, $600 for a payroll check, right? Grocery stores were service places back in the day. Service, unless you were in my check stand. The guy would come in, this one guy in particular, I can see him right now. He'd throw his check down, fold it up, and I'd unfold it, look at it, he'd go, I want my check cash and I want all big bills. So I would always say to him, hey, they're always pretty much the same size. I don't know if I have any bigger bills than the Federal Treasury puts out. I don't know if I can help you with that. He'd stare at me. Are you serious right now? Are you messing with me? I always had an answer for him too. Well, of course I'm messing with you. You make a lot of money. You should be smart, right? No, you didn't get it? They're all the bills. And then I'd pull out a 5 or a 1 and go like this. See, like this. Either he couldn't take it or he'd take it, but I always had that kind of response. This one got me fired. I was that guy. I had to let you know. You know, I didn't have the wherewithal to say, well, I'll have a second thought. I'll have a 15th thought. I'll use some judgment. I'll use some discretion, right? Guy came in and pushes a bottle of wine, and he says, $48 for a bottle of wine? He says, you know, I can get one down the street for $19. So I take the bottle, and I set it down by the cash register. He can't reach it. He says, what are you doing? I said, well, I get it, $48. Yeah, that's a lot of money. You don't want it. He goes, no, I want it. I said, oh, well, then you don't get to complain. See, there's no buy and bitch privileges at this check stand. You can take the wine and pay the $48, or not pay the $48 and you get to wine. But you can't have the wine if you're going to whine. Do you understand? That got me fired. He went right to the manager and he said, hey, Joe Stanislao, great guy. Let me work there for it. He'd fire me and hire me back because I was a good worker, right? He said to me one time, Joe, he says, you got no balance. You got no balance. You got no emotional balance. You got no professional balance. You know what? You got no balance. You're the best worker I have. You work circles around everyone else here. When you work, when you talk, I got to fire you. You're fired again. He fired me probably 4 times in 2 years. But he said to me one time, he said, listen, if you want to work for me, you got to do the work I give you, not just the work you want to do. And he said to me, and I never forgot this, tell me if this sounds familiar, do the job like you're trying to get the job, kid. So today went by fast for me, this episode, which is, I don't know, maybe appropriate since we were talking to a professional hockey player who could get from one end of the ice to the other in, that's it, boom, right there. I wish I could move that fast. Sometimes I'm glad I don't. Today, thank you for coming. I appreciate you being here one more time for the Mark Lundholm Show. And hashtag be first. I always say it, hope, peace, patience, beautifully, calm, professional, balanced. If you don't see some, be some out there. Really appreciate you stopping by. Do it anytime. Later.